Hi, I'm Christine Tully. I'm a senior writing coach with Defend and Publish, and this is episode 2 of our podcast series we're running in January that's designed to have you restart and re-engage with your writing during the first month of the year. So, second episode is all about engaging with your priority project. And if you did not listen to the last episode, I talked about picking out one of the projects that you're going to focus on just for the first 6 weeks, starting in the new year. So today what we're going to talk about is a couple of different ways that you can engage with that priority project. So the first thing to think about with this project is that you have a lot of steps probably that are left to do with it. One of the things I recommended that you do in the last episode is just make a master list of all the projects and try to get a list of the steps you need to do to complete them. But this one, since it's now selected as your priority project, you're going to do a deep dive and figure out all the little things that need to happen. So one of the things that I would recommend that would help is to actually figure out what the tasks are and then sort them. So as part of Defend and Publish podcast spot on the web page, if you go to that podcast area, you can see the show notes for this episode. And I actually put in there a grid that is designed to help you do some sorting with your priority project. So our first point of engagement is to figure out what needs to be done, but also to sort it into 2 categories. And so what you're going to end up looking at when you look at this grid, or if you want to use the grid, you don't even need to do this. You could actually do this on a piece of paper if you want to. But what you're trying to figure out is what are tasks that are going to require a lot of mental energy and thinking. They're more complex tasks to do. And what are tasks that are very, they're not easy necessarily to do, but they're ones that they don't require a great deal of mental energy for you. So let me give you 2 examples. A big thinking project that you might be working on is something where maybe a whole section is not working in your writing, or maybe you need to draft some new content. It could be, as in the case I mentioned in the last episode, I'm working on a book project and I'm starting a chapter this is the chapter I didn't really want to write. I know it needs to be in there. It's not my favorite. I keep putting it off. So I know that's going to take me some mental energy to figure out how that chapter fits in with the rest of the book. And that's a big organization problem. It's not a little problem. You might have something similar with a dissertation. So I know that's going to be a big mental task. Another thing might be that you didn't explain your methodology very well and you need to do that. Smaller tasks, on the other hand, might be things like creating tables. That's not necessarily easy. It can be very time consuming to do that, but that takes some time. Another thing that might be on there is changing some references or working with the documentation style, working with subheadings, or maybe clarifying titles or something like that. So one of the things to think about with those smaller tasks is just that, do you know what to do? And is it something that if you sat down and did it, you could do it? You don't need to really ask anybody. It could be things like finding, like I mentioned, sources, or getting a library book, or just going back and looking at something to clarify maybe what you need to do next from an email. So you're basically going to sort into 2 lists. The next thing you're going to do to engage with that priority project then is to use that grid to figure out your writing time during the week and when you're going to do some writing. So in the last episode, I recommended trying to find 8 to 10 hours a week on your writing. I know that's not a lot. Some of you, especially those of you working on dissertations, might want to be working towards like 20 hours a week or something like that. But let's stay very, calm, focused, relaxed, low stakes writing, and focus really on just getting some touch points with this priority project, because what we're trying to do is to get you moving on the project again. Rather than going like full throttle, we're trying to have a very nice, relaxing engagement with it. So the other thing to think about then, if you're going to do that writing, is that you have 8 to 10 hours a week. And in the last episode, I asked you to think about when your best writing times might be. So for example, maybe only 4 of those 10 hours are really quiet hours where you're guaranteed nobody's going to interrupt you. You have childcare if you're a parent. Maybe you don't have elder care responsibilities. Maybe it's it has to be really early in the morning because that's all you've got. But those kinds of hours you want to reserve for everything that's in the category that's a high thinking project, or a high mental energy project, or a high mental energy task that you need to complete. So you heard me mention that I had to think about my chapter 4 and how it fits in the rest of my book. I'm not going to try to do that in the 20 minutes I have between picking up one child from a lesson and a phone call. I know I'm not going to be able to knock that out in 20 minutes. But what I could do though, is I know that I have a title that I don't really like, and I just want to play around with a couple of different title choices. Or I know that one of my tables, I think I would like a better format for it. And I want to go in Microsoft Word and just play with a couple different formats to see if I like one better. Those are the kinds of tasks you want to put more in your low mental energy times. Again, it's not that they're not difficult or time consuming. They could still take you all day, but they're not the things where you need heavy mental work that you really need focused, concentrated time. So what I would encourage you to do then is really to work through, we're now in week 2 of January, is to work through and focus on your project in that way, understanding that this is how you're going to get your tasks accomplished. And you just try it for a week. See if it works, where you're putting your high mental energy tasks in those hours where you might be able to get work done that's uninterrupted, and then put the things that are low task in there that you can do when you're having maybe time where you could be interrupted or something like that. So have a good week, and I look forward to talking with you next week. Thank you.